Welcome to Discerning the Forums. I'm Nick.
I'm Anthony. We're back.
All right. I had a kid run through the background here.
Cool. That's what you want.
Yeah. So if anybody heard any kid noises, it's because I got kids around me.
My kids are all sleeping 2 levels above me, so I'm quiet so far. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So tonight will be a fun topic to explore. We're talking about what is now all the rage and all the hype. It's a conversation around ChatGPT, maybe AI and its potential and maybe effects in society at large, and then just maybe kind of get our impressions of it, and then maybe just talk about what it might mean from a Christian perspective and kind of from our slightly critical perspective of
Extremely
sort of
critical.
gung-ho
Yeah.
blind leap into the dark with all the hyper tech. But
Yeah.
anyways, let's just start out with talking about all these new AI rollouts, the GPT language, and sounds like there's some others. What are your impressions, Anthony?
I had seen it come around. I remember when it first dropped, and I had not really used GPT very much. Actually, I barely used it. I've seen it. My wife works for her work. She uses it sometimes because their company wanted to have it be a resource for them to use to respond to clients, and it's interesting. What she discovered was that it is not like a one-to-one scenario, right? Like you can't just type in a question and it's going to give you the perfect answer written out. Actually, like there needed to be a lot of, from her perspective, a lot of human intervention to get the language right and to get it to sound like the right response.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't like this fix. Like I think that her company thought it
Write
would be
me an
an
answer
immediate
to this.
fix.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem with that is that every context is going to be different. Every sort of client that they deal with is going to have different. It's going to have different needs, and so like the idea that this AI generated, tech for say answers or whatever it is not going to be the immediate fix that people want it to be. So, in my experience with it, I think the way my wife had kind of said, she thinks it's just a tool. It's not anything kind of more than that, which is a fair probably assessment at this point. And then you see this other stuff where people are asking it questions about like what the true religion is, or all those kind. There's all these like interesting ones that I get more interested in, is like the sort of crazy stuff that I find entertaining more than anything. And I actually asked it a couple. I had gone on the Chat GPT, made a profile, just an account, and just asked it like a couple like theological questions. And I was surprised at how good the responses were. I'll say that it freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's my experience. I don't know what is your experience been like.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, yeah, for me, my brother, I actually want to have him on. We're gonna try to get him on to the podcast because he's a
Yeah, that'd be
tech
great.
person.
Yeah.
And he sent me the website to this, and I was fooling around with it. And especially this week, I've been fooling around with it, and today just kind of anticipating the podcast and just discovering all these new apps. Man, I should maybe put a link to this in the show notes. I'll pull it up here and find it in a minute. But there's even a database that just kind of pools all these different AI apps kind of based on GPT, or 3 or GPT 4. Bing's now going to be GPT-4, and who else? Google has some kind of, they have Lambda or whatever it is, their AI system that they're rolling out, because they're all in competition now because GPT jumped the
Right.
gun, and so
Right.
now that spooked Google and Microsoft, so they're trying to roll out theirs.
Yeah.
So whenever Google and Microsoft get involved, I say, okay, I don't want to do those ones. I want to do whoever's against
Right.
those ones. But
Yeah.
but I guess so. I've been messing around with them, and yeah, my impression was the same. I thought it was a tool. There's a interesting app called Hello History. So it kind of uses this kind of protocol and says, hey, chat with famous people in history. So
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's all Martin Luther King Jr. or
Sure.
Seneca, or whoever.
Uh-huh.
And so there was I was messing around with that for fun. Of course,
Do
the
they have
first few,
Jesus?
they have Jesus. That was one of the first ones I looked up, and
Yeah, that's
it was
treading
hilarious.
dangerous waters there for me.
I talked to
What was it
Jesus
like?
today.
What was it
Oh
like?
man,
I
it
talked to
was
Jesus.
hilarious. I chuckled actually just the opening made me chuckle because it made him sound kind of like a new age guru kind of person, like, hey, like, I just
Yeah.
want to help you find the peace in your journey, that kind of
Oh, and your
thing.
journey,
Help
yeah,
you
you
in your
gotta find
journey or
peace
something.
yeah. Some sentimental garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, I
Mhm.
guess the further back in history, I tried Socrates, I wasn't impressed at kind of high
Oh.
school,
Yeah.
or first year college uh philosophy
Undergraduate
course, or
philosophy, yeah.
undergraduate
Mhm.
philosophy kind of
Yeah.
that part wasn't very impressive. But when it got to, I tried I tried Hannah Arendt,
Okay.
and that was kind of useful because I was able to
That's
ask,
she's pretty recent, right?
yeah, she's recent enough. She has enough books
Yeah.
out. So I'm assuming it can pull from a lot of resources to
Sure.
get. With Jesus, it's a
Mhm.
much more controversial picture. So you got resources from all over the place. So I don't know what it pulls
Yeah,
from.
what's the source? Yeah, what's the main
Yeah, what are
source
the
of
sources?
yeah.
That'll be an interesting thing, is where it gets its information, how it's sourced,
Hmm.
and especially for people working. If you're researching, or if you there's a lot of helpful things about it, as a
Mhm.
tool, but yeah, it's gonna have kind of a general perspective, a lot of biases that are kind of worked into the algorithm because they're
Mhm.
selecting various sources, and you don't really have access to those sources. So I
Right,
noticed that
you don't
right away.
know.
Kind of
Yeah.
interesting, yeah.
Mhm.
But
Interesting.
I tried like you. I tried fun theological
Mhm.
searches, and I was asking it various questions on metaphysics, since we kind of do that on the show sometimes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there there were some good responses, and it put things well. What else? Another thing I tried taking some of my notes on a book that I
Mhm.
was reading, and I copy pasted my notes into ChatGPT and said, "Hey, write me 3 paragraphs based on my notes."
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting. It kind of was pulling things through, but of course, because I know the context of my notes,
Mhm.
it had to fill in the gaps, and it kind of put in kind of generic language, or kind of,
Mhm. Mhm.
things that didn't fit with the book that I was reading. So that's
Right,
kind
right,
of funny.
right. Yeah,
Another,
and again, that's the
yeah,
trouble with it, right? Like, it only can go so far,
yeah,
and, it needs so much human input, right? Like, it's not like this
yeah,
thing that can just exist,
yeah. Wasn't there
it
that?
can't organically it doesn't
Yeah,
organically because it can't.
this isn't
It's not
Westworld
that's
yet.
what it does.
Yeah,
No, or Blade Runner. Westworld or it's not that
yeah.
yet, no. No.
So yeah, there was article that came out. What was it, a couple months ago or a few months ago, where some professor thought that the Google Lambda got sentience, or gained sentience or something.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
remember,
the guy actually
yeah,
left Google who said that,
yeah,
right? It's
left
like I think he
Google,
left Google. He
yeah.
said that it became sentient and like, what does that even mean? It became sentient. How do you know
Yeah.
that?
So
We're yeah.
philosophically loaded. Yeah. What does
Yeah,
it mean to
yeah,
be
yeah.
to exist? There's so
That
much
that
Heidegger going on here.
Yeah, 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 the days in. People are uncovering the days in and GPT. I'm trying to find one on I saw one on Twitter that I really, really enjoyed. When I find it, I'll tell you what it is, but it's just
Okay.
like it was like, this is the peak of this stuff, and it's never gonna get better. I gotta find exactly what it is, but,
While you're looking
that's
for that, oh yeah. Did you
yeah,
find
because
it?
to me, that's the thing that I enjoy most is just like the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
That's to
Mhm.
me where I always trend towards that direction, whether it's like comedically or anything. I tend to
Yeah.
be very Albert Camus about stuff, like absurdity, like very not actually like Camus,
Yeah.
but my instincts are to the absurd, and I find that most enjoyable. So, but continue with your what
I
you
think,
want to
yeah.
do
Well,
or
I will.
derail it.
I'm gonna share a take on it. I think it'll be a future social reaction at some point. But anyways, so
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
so like I found there's some interesting uses. My favorite thing that I found while kind of researching what people are doing with the GPT-3. Yeah, GPT-4 is kind of inaccessible unless you're paying for it. Except Bing says they're using GPT-4, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
the GPT-3, I mean, there's several apps people are building around it. It's kind of funny. It's kind of
Mhm.
built more on like it's stuff you could still do on Chat GPT,
Mhm.
but maybe somebody like tailored it a specific line of reasoning. Like that history app that I was
Mhm.
telling you. You could just tell Chat GPT, "Hey, be Jesus." You're Jesus, and I'm, and then you could have it run through this
Mhm.
program. But one of the
Yeah.
things I did find that was cool, there's a website called Chat PDF. So if you search
Okay.
Chat PDF, that was
Hmm.
cool. So I took an article, a PDF article.
Mhm.
It was a journal article, and I dropped it into Chat PDF. And what it does, it analyzes the article and then lets you have a conversation about the article with
Hmm.
Chat GPT. And
That's interesting.
yeah, and so like I could say, okay, well, define all the terms in the article, and it
Mhm.
will list all the terms. Then I can start asking questions. What was the main idea? But then I was asking it weird questions. Like I was like, okay, like the PDF I dropped in was had to do with universals and
Mhm.
particulars. It was a metaphysics
Yeah.
question, and it was kind of introducing the concept and kind of surveying the different um, views of realism. And
Mhm.
so I did something interesting. I was like, okay, well, what is Robert Brandom? How would Robert Brandom respond to this article, or something like that? And it
Hmm.
actually, spat out answers like, and
Yeah.
it was measured. It was like, well, it's indeterminate whether Robert Brandom is a realist or not, but da da da
Yeah.
da da.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's
yeah.
here's his work, here's his emphasis, and here's how it relates to the article. So
Mhm.
I did think that was my favorite thing that I did with
I
it.
wonder if ChatGPT is a realist or not, or an
Oh,
ideal.
yeah, no, I didn't ask it that question.
No, it's interesting. It's an
Are
interesting. It'd
you a
be an
realist
interesting
or not?
question to ask. Are you an idealist? Where do you exist on the realm of if the world exists outside of my peripherals or not?
Yeah.
It's important to ask these questions.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I guess I could anticipate its uses. Like you mentioned,
Mhm.
your wife's using it. My
Yeah.
brother's using it in his tech profession. I mean, if he wants to, set up a string of basic code that he can go edit. He can have a
Mhm.
conversation with it and so forth. But yeah, so there's a lot of good things, uses that I see.
Yeah.
It basically has to do with shorthand. It's
Mhm.
so talking about the chat PDF. Well, that might be good. Let's say I have a whole stack of articles I need to read,
Right.
prep for.
Sift through.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, sift through it. Maybe there's some of them that don't seem as important as the others. I could
Mhm.
drop them in there, have a conversation, get the main ideas out,
Yeah.
kind of I could do that with everyone and then kind of figure out which ones are more important.
Mhm.
Um, you could, of course, I love its uses in editing and stuff, grammar,
Mhm.
reconstruction,
Yeah.
Grammarly's using AI.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
right.
of course, editing and those kinds of things. But,
Mhm.
I understand, one of the issues that pop up right away, of course, for professors would be like, how people cheat
Oh,
with
yeah.
those things. But, they've come up with AI detectors and things too. You can
Mhm.
run scripts through.
Right. Just with
Uh,
language. I mean,
yeah.
it'll be obvious. I think it's more now. The thing will be is when it probably gets more savvy, right? When
Yeah.
there's enough input in it, it's gonna
GPT
start being
5. What's that going to be like? Yeah.
right. So like, there's things to me where, um, right now it's in like the infancy. Like, maybe from my own ignorant view of it, like it seems like it's in the very infant stages. Maybe it's further along than I realize. But
Hmm.
part of it for me is like it's just like I'm thinking when you're talking, I was thinking about the beginnings of social media, right? Like even the
Yeah.
beginnings of the internet, right? So like think
Yep.
about the internet in its infancy, how like it was just the Wild West. Like there was no like
Hmm.
there's random websites all the time, and even the onslaught of social media, right? So you had MySpace was kind of the first major social media platform, which got very popular, and that eventually died and gave its life to Facebook, um, and just like the way in which these things have infested our lives, I would say, like really has
Hmm.
gotten like deep in the roots of our lives. It's like even the idea of so like social media and like the way that that has completely taken over our lives. Also the idea of even just having an iPhone, right? The iPhone itself is you could think of it like a tool, but in reality it is no longer just a tool. It's a part of our lives that um is so connected to our day to day, whether it's like how many times we look to it for whether it's like we're working off email, checking social media, buying stuff, reading stuff. I know I use my phone for a variety of different things, and I try to not have it on as much around the kids at home, but that usually doesn't always work out. Whether it's like because I'm doing work for the church or checking school stuff, but you know things like things like the iPhone, our computers, our tablets, these things shape us now in a way that we couldn't have predicted when it first came out. When the iPhone first came out, it's infant, right? It was in its infancy. So like there's no way you could have predicted the quality that we have now is truly, I think they did the estimate right. It's like we have like $10 million in our pocket from like 19, I forget whatever they said the first cell phone came out. Like if this was back then, that's how much it would be worth. So like I don't know exactly what the future of it will be, but I know just looking at social media and technology broadly, there's just so many unintended consequences to these things that you can't predict right now. So that's where my kind of
Yeah.
my mind goes is that there is
Yeah.
no way to necessarily predict the future of it
Hmm.
and how savvy it will be even to get around
Hmm.
the AI detectors unless they're in sync trying to always update and try to because I can already see, I'm just finishing up my graduate degree
Hmm.
now. I'll be graduating in June, so like I'll never have the pleasure of trying to sneak in Chat GPT
Chat
stuff.
GPT essay or something.
Truly, like because it does it. People, I
Yeah.
saw somebody he
Essay.
3D printed a paper that it was handwritten, a 3D
Wow.
handwriting paper that was AI. How could you detect that? You can't detect that. That's crazy. You know what I mean? So like
Wow.
things are things with technology, they always progress way faster than you think. and
Yeah.
have a lot of consequence. So that's sort of my feeling about it.
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't have any certainty about it, other
Yeah.
than we can't predict it.
Yeah.
Totally.
I sent you an AI Trump
Yeah,
voice.
I saw that.
Uh,
Yeah.
I tried to I tried to I tried to give us an intro with Trump, but I wasn't that impressed. It kind of actually sounded like Trump with a cold, and
It
he's
wasn't. It
kind of
wasn't
down.
quite. It wasn't. It didn't have the essence that I
It's
desired
because
from
I
it.
don't have
When I
the
hear, yeah,
yeah. I need to kind of
didn't have.
act like him when I'm doing it. So,
Yeah, you kind of
uh,
like get to move your hands like this. Nothing else.
but
America is the greatest country. Whatever the. I don't have a good impression of him, but like you have to have a very.
yeah,
There's a very specific cadence that you have to hit with him
yeah.
that
But that
makes
is an
it true.
interesting point
Yeah.
because there was some recently there was some news. I don't watch the if you're still
Mhm.
watching like mainstream news, like you need to get with it.
Yeah,
But
you gotta wake up.
you gotta up your game. But I there was somebody was doing, they pulled like Tucker Carlson or something and
Mhm.
tried to say he sent some kind of weird email or something. I wasn't paying attention. I was half paying attention
Mhm.
when this was going on.
Right.
But they used an AI voice to like read off his email like as if it was Tucker Carlson, which I thought
Yeah.
was like a really ironic thing to do.
So
Yeah.
that was the first thing I encountered in the AI was the voice generator. That to me
Yeah.
is the greatest. That's so fantastic in so many. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I think so. This will lend into a deeper. I'm not going to go on a rant here, but like the AI generated voice.
Yeah.
Because I've heard the one with there was like Trump. They have these videos of like Trump, Biden, and Obama playing video games together.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's so
Yeah.
funny because they're just using the most coarse language and I think people are not we have to be prepared that like because people are always like concerned about deep fakes, right? Like
Yeah.
whether
Because
the
that's the thing. Yeah.
like the deep fake pornography that's out there where you can like put people that so it's like really like sinister
Mm,
evil stuff, right? It's so disgusting.
wow.
um but people are not prepared for like if you think you're being tricked now by things.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can generate, I mean, obviously they've been able to prove it, but like again,
Mhm.
with technology getting more and more savvy and more
Mhm.
like like fluid and not as like whatever, we're living in a dangerous time where people can fake a lot of different things, and I
Yeah.
don't know if we're prepared for that kind of dilute
Yeah.
mass like scale
How are we
psyoping,
going to deal with evidence in court? That kind of thing. How are
exactly.
we going to so, like, that
Yeah,
is the deal. Like, this
scary.
could be used politically, this could be
Mhm.
used, to get
Politically is the main
people
way I'm thinking.
unethically in
Yeah,
all sorts of ways. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
politically, or
Mhm.
blackmail or
Blackmail.
sabotage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
It's
but
pretty
I think
yeah.
the more that stuff goes on, the more we use it in negative ways, it's gonna get to the
Mhm,
place where people are not gonna know the difference between
mhm.
just gonna be skeptical of everything. We're just not gonna believe
Yeah.
anything that's on
Mhm,
video, anything that's anywhere, which has its own kind of consequences. I think one of the things, if you notice, like, in the early thousands, uh, and late 90s, so as internet's coming on the scene and we're starting to get DSL internet, but then also you're getting all this
mhm.
electronic. I'm gonna use music as an example, but I'm sure it came about in various ways. Excuse me. But you notice there was like a trend towards like authentic sounding like music with space, not space
Mhm.
like futuristic, but room
Yeah,
space,
yeah.
full. Even like I think of the Postal Service,
Mhm.
which is a band I loved back in the early thousands, and the Postal Service, they were able to use like electronic music, but they were able to find ways that made it like truly human, truly
Yeah.
authentic, like in the
That wasn't
rhyming.
disconnected, yeah, from
Yeah,
emotions. Yeah.
minimalistic a little bit while
Mhm,
everyone was doing the crazy stuff, they, like, came in and
mhm,
offered this authenticity. I have a feeling we'll go through another wave of that where
mhm.
either there'll be, like, cut ups, like comedy, where you just really make it absurd, like you were talking about, Like you do
Yeah.
the most absurd thing, you know. Or,
I'm here for that.
yeah,
I love that. That's
I'm
great.
excited
Yeah.
about that. Yeah,
That's
like
art. That's art.
anti-comedy
That's art.
kind
Yes.
of art,
Or
and
like surrealist, or like kind of. You ever see those? There's like these TikToks where people are making like these surrealist, almost films on TikTok. It's really, it's actually
you'll
like
send me
astonishing
one.
that like
Yeah,
actual art is existing on a platform that I think is just a Chinese
yeah,
data
Chinese
mining thing,
propaganda
right? It's just a
trying to
data
get
mining thing
kids
for
to.
China, but like I see some of these videos and it's like there's this kind of surrealist comedy. It's so amazing. But yeah, sorry, continue your point. Just I don't want to.
I can't remember. Well, yeah, I think that, the point was, yeah, there's gonna be a struggle for people to make art, and this goes
Yeah,
all the
that's
way
a good
back to
point. Yeah, it's a good
there's
point.
a there's a book I read a long time ago, looking it up. It's called
Hmm.
Digimodernism,
Mm,
and I kind of was, I wasn't retaining it all, and I wasn't really interested when I read it, but
yeah.
I always remembered it
Hmm.
because it was so true.
Mm.
And I
Digimodernism.
Digimonitors, I wanna go back to it, actually. Found it on Amazon. I'll try to
Who
keep it
wrote
on.
it? Who wrote it?
It's Alan Kirby. So he's a sociologist, I believe.
Hmm.
Let's see.
That's
Let
interesting.
me read. So, pulled it up on Amazon. It says the increasing irrelevance of postmodernism requires a new theory to underpin our current digital culture. Almost without anybody noticing, a new cultural paradigm has
Hmm.
taken center stage, displacing an exhausting and increasingly marginalized postmodernism. Um,
Hmm.
so it's kind of a postmodern theory, and
Yeah.
it was written in 2009, but it has such pressing ramifications. He
Hmm.
tried to make the case, at least I remember at one point. Let's see if it begin with the internet, most important look at see taking into account television, cinema, computer games, music, radio, etc. Kirby analyzes the emergence and implications of these diverse media,
Mm.
coloring our cultural landscape with new ideas on texts and how they work. This new kind of
Mm.
text produces distinctive forms of author and reader viewer relationships, which in turn lead to altered notions of authority, truth, and legitimization. Somewhere in the book, he argues he thinks there's no more art.
Hmm.
Like he thinks that there's no art in the digimodern age. Like
Hmm.
obviously, people are content makers and
Producing, yeah,
producers; they're
content.
producing things.
Yeah,
But
that's
so I
different than
think,
art.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he's using extreme language, but I think maybe
Mhm.
there's in my what I'm kind of my takeaway of it, or how I kind of internalize it, is there's a real struggle for artists and authenticity,
Mhm.
and I
I
think that
agree.
it's
Yeah, I agree.
exacerbated in these situations.
I think there's a I'm gonna riff off because this is actually a point that I've actually thought about quite a bit. Being that I'm still making music. I'm still writing in a band and still writing music. And there's a book that I read a while ago. I actually pulled it up on Amazon. I don't know if you can.
It's
Sit.
shiny. It's shiny. I can't see it.
It's
Get closer.
very so it's got the
I see a
coolest. It's got the
spaceman,
coolest. It's got the coolest cover. It's a guy. It's a robot smoking a
transhuman
cigarette.
robot man.
It's
Yeah.
called Nihilism and Technology. This
Hmm.
guy Nolan Gertz. It's a very, very, very excellent book. It's he uses Nietzsche to interpret technology.
Can you drop
And
that in the Telegram?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll actually pull it up on. He uses Nietzsche to interpret technology in a way that's really, really, really helpful. And I guess part of it for me is I was writing a paper at the time on I was writing a paper on technology and Christianity because I it was like a ethics and Christianity class.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm saying a lot here. And what I found most helpful about it was he kind of like he did a really good. There's a lot in the book that's just like really excellent. But a lot of what he did was like recognizing the patterns that technology create in us. And that the idea of existing online authentically is impossible. Is mostly impossible. Like you're saying the authenticity of the struggle for authenticity in the digital modern age, which I agree with, because to get any notoriety, you have to follow a certain kind of pattern, and that pattern has gone before you, and that pattern isn't really you. But then you have to get caught up in kind of being like somebody else at first to get noticed. So there's a danger in losing this stuff. And obviously for Nietzsche, nihilism is the thing that comes after the fall of the sort of Western morality, which is built on Christianity, which is built on transcendent moral qualities that are not for Nietzsche, they're not real because Christianity is false, and there's all sorts of things that he got wrong.
Sure.
I think what he does get correct, and what Gertz uses in the book, is that the way that nihilism is going to seep into the technological society which we're in, and the way that that's going to create a new morality, and the overman has to overcome obviously the technological or technocratic. He doesn't get too political or anything, but I think his larger point
get
is
over
that
the ESG score.
his larger point is that it's a new thing we have to. It's a new form of nihilism that we have to contend with, because of the way that technology functions. It necessarily abstracts, and we can get in. When we talk about a lull, right? Like even the forms of government abstract people from human existence, and whether it's like the economic man, right, that has no actual say because of the state. Or that technology itself, the technique, which he also he cites
the allure,
the
potential, the convenience of technology draws us in as a real presence, as a kind of mystical real presence.
Yeah.
Elul, in Elul's
totally, yeah. Elul's right, and he cites Elul, which is really he's really Elul and Nietzsche are great on a lot of these sort of issues, especially the postmodern sort of the after the fall of the Western morality. I think Elul and Nietzsche are great. So I highly recommend that book. Obviously, to our listeners, I think it is well worth your time. I think he does a good job of. You don't have to be an expert on Nietzsche to read it. I think he does a really great job in each chapter sifting out some of Nietzsche's major points and applying them. It's really worth reading, and especially as we're talking about ChatGPT and the future of AI, it's like, how do we as Christians orient ourselves in this world where it's becoming more, I think, increasingly difficult to discern what the truth is of any given situation, whether you think about the last years of the COVID years, or the war in Ukraine, and the inflation and the bank stuff that's going on. Like, how are we able to discern where we lie and where the truth lies in that? Because I think we're being deceived at every corner of reality, whether it's demons or or people who are looking to gain power over us, which I think is a real reality. And Christians have a different relationship to that than, say, like a person who isn't a Christian, who wants to say, "Oh, my civil liberties are being lost, and this is the greatest evil." But it's like, we know as Christians that like there's a greater evil than losing liberties to choose to shop X, Y, or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still not a good to lose, the sort of the freedom of movement and the freedom of agency in the majority of life. It's a really
freedom
good thing
has to be is always freedom from what, and it's embedded in some kind of context.
And then
freedom from or freedom to do.
Right, and we
from
should
a Christian
be thinking about what.
It's like freedom to love.
Yes.
Freedom to love. Freedom to not love like some kind of hippie guru thing, but
not the hippie AI Jesus, New Age Jesus. Or the freedom for
self-sacrifice of
giving. The free, and even in that, like Christianity,
freedom to love God, follow Him.
Yeah, even the
Mhm.
idea of being a Christian transcends even we can live in a totalitarian state and exist as Christians, and we're so called to the same thing. It just comes at a higher price,
Yeah.
which there's merits as that, and there's actually merits to that, and
And
what
I
the
do think there's a Christian view of human flourishing that
hmm
act actually contributes to human flourishing. Yeah, I think there's a
oh yeah, big time.
this is really getting down to discussion of who's and which human flourishing, and that's whose imagination gets, you know, and we're kind of stuck with choices power elites are choosing, and we have to kind of react. But
Yeah,
that will be an interesting place as we navigate things. It's gonna take a lot more community,
yeah,
Christian community, a lot more thoughtfulness. At a certain point, this is kinda goofy, but well, as and I can imagine as people are going through this, as everything becomes automated, as you
hmm
have this becomes more integrated in our job situations, I just gotta ask the thing of the right question to help you, or I have to ask the thing the
right,
right question
right,
to program this or to do this.
right,
The
right.
more it becomes shorthand and an extension of ourselves as a technique and as a tool
Yeah,
that, there is gonna be that need for real human connection, real,
hmm
face-to-face, relationships,
oh
more
yeah,
because we're gonna be sucked into a world that's run by algorithms,
hmm
and we're gonna
yeah,
desire the non I think it creates a dialectic. I think it creates a dialectic. So you have those like trying to push the the tech the technique as far as it could logically go, and then you have those
hmm
kind of trying to hold it back and put parameters, boundaries, rules, uh, and kind of structure around it so that it functions the way that would be appropriate for you know for for human society.
hmm
I think that's going to be an interesting thing that we push for in the future. I don't think it's going to
yeah.
be easy either because it's not going to be like, hey, if we get the right legislation in to
Yeah,
regulate it,
it's not simple. It's not that
because
simple
then you get
at
the
all.
regulators controlling the algorithm. So it's going
Right.
to be a bizarre kind of decentralized
Mhm.
struggle. There's going to be a struggle for centralization versus decentralization over the use of
Yeah.
these technologies.
Yeah, I think also just to encourage I see a lot of when this is related. It seems it's gonna be a left turn here, but the importance for theological discussion around this topic. Um, a lot of people I've seen a lot of some guys I like a lot criticized for talking about economics when they're like a pastor or like when they're critiquing say like Marx or something, and people
Yeah.
will hop on it. You're not an economics expert, you're not a whatever, you shouldn't be
Mhm.
talking about that. And that happens at seemingly every level now. It's like if you're not like this
Yeah,
culture, then you can't
guru,
do this kind
expert.
of thing, right? If you're
Mhm,
not an expert or in this area, then you shouldn't be talking. But I think
mhm,
John Milbank, I just wanted to quote this just to either like close out our discussion or just like encourage people that like I
mhm.
know this stuff may seem not always worth our time, especially if you're in the work of theology, that this is like, well, I don't really know what to do about this. And so John Milbank in his book Theology and Social Theory, which came out 2003, like 20 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
It's been a long time since it came out. But he says that the
Why are all
pathos
the
of
books I've
modern
read 20 years old? Sorry.
it's really crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's how old we are. That we're reading our books that we love are like 20. It's really wild. I think it might be a little bit. It might have been less than that, but
Guys,
I
there's
think
this
it.
cool guy that just totally broke theology. His name's John Milbank. Oh, wait.
This book 20 some years ago,
Yeah.
uh, which is how theology works. Usually, every 20 years, you have this sort of groundbreaking book that appears, and then
Yeah.
everybody's just trying to either catch up to it or work from it. But
Yeah.
this book's a little. It's a lot more complicated. Sort of. It's like the book is called Theology and Social Theory, and his whole point of it was like I'm reclaiming So here, I'll say this. He says this in the book. It's in the beginning. I think it's in the intro or like the second chapter. It says the pathos of modern theology is its false humility. For theology must be a fatal disease because once theology surrenders its claim to be a meta discourse, if theology no longer seeks to position, qualify, or criticize other discourses, then it is inevitable that these discourses will position theology. So we, as Christians in the world of theology, need to be recognize that theology is the meta discourse. Everything comes under the umbrella of theology, rather than say like this technology conversation positioning theology a certain way. We need to be thinking ahead, and we need to be thinking proactively about like all this stuff, because we're going to encounter things we're not prepared for yet and that we're not ready for. But if we're not talking about it now, we're going to be even further behind, right? Than
Yeah,
if it
it's
comes,
gonna be
we're going to
like,
fall behind.
yeah, it's gonna be a flooded basement, at some point, and
Oh
so
yeah, I
we
don't want to
gotta,
just be. I
yeah,
don't want to just be a reactionary.
yeah,
I want to be having conversations that are preparing us to have an imagination to sort of deal and grapple with these things as they come, rather than just purely reacting to stuff. Because I think
mhm,
that's going to lead to very bad views and
yeah,
positions, and
yep. So, hey,
not
the
good.
ChatGPT hit, it's, forcing competitors to, you know, throw in their AIs, uh, Google and Microsoft. So it's happening, and people are gonna use it whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
What can we do as Christians in Christian community as we, I mean, do you kinda have a half and half approach, like, this could be
Mm.
useful, but we also need
Yeah.
to help people, are we gonna be dealing with, people with, like, different kinds of addictions? And I don't know, like, are there gonna be
Right.
different
Right.
issues that we're gonna have to anticipate in
Hmm.
ministry or as Christian community, um, or even just preserving our own humanity in certain senses? I mean, what are
That's
your thoughts there?
preserving our humanity is my main concern. So I see myself, even with just technology that we have now, how it seeks to like how how Milbank says about how other discourses will position theology. I feel like technology positions me a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, totally transparent about that. That in that I'm often guided by my desire to do stuff on technology, whether it's like my phone, my laptop, whether I'm playing video games, or my heart seems to be manipulated by these things, whether it's because of certain behavioral patterns or emotional needs or whatever it is. These things are these I don't want to say dangerous in the sense of like we need to just like burn it, because like we're in such an age where it's not really possible unless you're going to
Mhm.
be Amish. But even the Amish are now using, I mean, technology that's been around for, it's not as new, but like
Mhm.
the point I want to make here is like that we lose our humanity to this stuff
Mhm.
because it abstracts us. Like the idea of being on social media to me. I have a
Mhm.
Facebook, I have an Instagram, I have a Twitter. Um, my Twitter is anonymous because I think partly you can't be as genuine on social media anymore,
Mhm.
without it devolving into some kind of chaotic discourse. Like if I was like I've stopped being political on my Facebook altogether because I realized over time, first of all, that I'm going to be in ministry and I'm going to care for people, so I don't
Yeah.
want people seeing it, because I think it alienates, and it doesn't really isn't a net positive in
The
the
medium's the
ministry world.
message, and people that are in
Exactly.
that medium, yeah.
Exactly. And not that I wouldn't defend the positions I have on Twitter. I totally would. I'm fully like I genuinely believe those things. But the idea that like, and I get this a lot from Gertz in that book, is that, and Jess, my wife and I have actively not don't post our kids like almost ever. Like sometimes we will. Like if there's like my profile right now on Facebook is it's a family picture of us because it was our after
Sure.
our fourth was born. It's like really a sweet picture. The kids are all adorable. But the idea that you can, first of all, you're going to start being sucked into this idea that you can be a genuine person online, that there can be this genuine, authentic person that exists on Facebook or Instagram or something, and that you can curate your profile to be exactly who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But then you meet some of these people that you see online in real life, and they're nothing like you.
Yeah. Is the
Absolutely nothing
struggle
like their
for
profile.
authenticity, would that make us less authentic in a way? Like if we start trying to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I know for
Because it's not
myself,
using the medium the way you honestly would be. So it's not really
yeah, I don't even know, like, to me,
maybe that's
I'm not even really sure what the point of the medium is sometimes anyways, other than, like, there's Facebook's a good family connecting scenario if you have, like,
yeah.
extended family and you can, like, group chat and, like, get together, make plans, like, that's one thing you could do, I guess.
But are
But,
we
like,
all getting
even
together like what remember the 90s and it was like
yeah,
we as
some of our
families we'd
listeners might
all
be too young for
travel.
that, but yeah. The idea of even no cell
I
phones, dude,
remember
like
the 90s and I remember
yeah.
like you actually had to get out of your house and go play with your friends and we had
Yeah, I had to
me and
go
my
I had to
friend
call
I had a
yeah.
friend Cody, we go play by the cliffs and my parents were okay with it. I'm not even okay with my kids playing by cliffs.
Oh, yeah. No, it
I
was
mean,
a
I'd
much
ride my
different time.
bike. Yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean, like,
I'd have
spending
friends I
time
have
with
to call on a
family,
landline.
I
I have to call
remember
on the
there
landline, you know?
yeah. Remember, like, a
Crazy.
Thanksgiving or something like that, and you have a bunch of
Mhm.
different family over. Everybody's doing a different thing, but, someone's helping the dishes, so someone else is watching football,
Yeah,
someone else is doing
yeah.
this, but you're all kinda together in the place, and,
And you don't see each other, talk to each other very often.
yeah, now I feel like I mean,
Everything
we have
is
to force ourselves to be
connected.
intentional about that. Yeah.
Yeah, connected, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it gives the facade of connection at the expense of actually having humanity.
A human connection.
You can't translate humanity online, I don't think. At least through the
Mhm.
mediums of, like, Facebook or like videos can be better that way. Like there's a more translatable ability
Mhm.
on whether it's like not that YouTubers aren't authentic. I don't mean that. I mean like the way you translate the human condition
What we're
is
doing
not
here, we're
true.
talking.
In a way, right? So you and I,
Yeah.
we're different time zones. We don't live in the same area and but we can talk like this. You and I, we
Yeah.
connected through Facebook, but through like shared mutual interests, and like we were chatting, and it was like, oh, maybe we can talk in person, and then it gets. Well, this is years ago. This is like our second or third podcast that we've done. That has been the most successful of the ones. But my
Is this
broader point,
where
yeah.
is this where participation
Hmm.
in, dare I say, church is gonna matter more than ever?
I think if we understand that Christ is
Ecclesial
the true
participation.
human, right? Christ is the
Yeah.
true human. So like
Yeah.
that's what it means to be human. So us to participate in that is to go to church
Participate in
and
Christ.
and
Or
to
yeah,
participate in Christ
take
in
the
a real
Eucharist.
physical
Yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah. The Eucharist, baptism,
Yeah.
you know, these things are what make us truly human because Christ is true human. And is that these
Mhm.
other ways of trying to be authentic or be human to me are just like they're echoes, they're like mists of humanity. Whereas like church is where you find what it means to be truly human, which is Christ, which is to love God and your neighbor, and to receive his body and his blood. And so those are what make us human, is because it opens up to the true heart of the universe, which is the sacrificial love, right, of the triune
Mhm.
God. Like this is what actually, and these other things abstract us from that in a way that
Yeah.
is very dangerous. Where church can be a reorientation and a rehabilitation of embodied life. And some churches don't have a good liturgy. They're not really thinking embodied in that way. They're more thinking about the coming together, experiencing things, and
Mhm.
but not having the
Yeah.
Eucharist and stuff like that. But
I would say I've been thinking about that a lot because
mhm.
I do think I understand there might be different kinds of listeners here. So, like,
Yeah,
we'll talk about the Eucharist, and that's important, highly important for us. But that's like you said, it teaches us, it's participating in the heart of
yeah,
God, truly being
yes,
participating in Christ in
hmm
that way. Baptism is a participation in Christ. The sacraments,
yes,
participation. When for other groups, I do think, yeah, like a at the very least, you know, I am interested a lot in like Pentecostalism in the sense, at least Pentecostalism preserves the real presence of the Spirit in the coming together and gathering of the believers. So
Yeah.
I do think churches that preserve the mystery and preserve some kind of presence of God in what we're doing. Now, I think that matters because
Oh yeah.
you take
Totally.
out the Eucharist, something else will fill that space.
Exactly.
You know, in an orgasmic
Exactly.
worship song that builds the climax and gives you a
Yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. No,
male
it
oriented usually.
it's a
Uh,
power vacuum, right? Like if you're not being fed, right, in the power vacuum
yeah, or the
of if
sermon
yeah.
replaces the altar, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes. I again,
We've run that
this is not
critique
a
before.
criticism necessarily of that stuff, but I think it's important even if you are in those even if I would say disagree with some of that stuff in the traditions, you're still gathering for worship, being with people. It
Mhm.
still is some sense of embodiment, even though you don't have maybe the
Yeah,
real like participatory framework on
yeah,
the liturgy being like a literally like performing the heavenly worship
yeah,
with the like there is a sense in which I think liturgy is very it opens up the heavens. There's a
yeah,
theurgic act of invoking God's name,
mhm,
not by way of our own power, but by participation.
yeah,
Um, it really there really is a sense of that embodiment in those scenarios because it is earthy and it's grounded, and when you
mhm,
eat the bread and drink the wine, those are things of earth that Christ is inhabiting, right,
mhm,
mystically.
mhm.
Um and so that to me is a greater sense of embodiment, but again, the broader point here is to like actually make human connection and to like
Yeah, and I
be
think
together.
generally Christianity is, and speaking broadly here, at least believes in participating in Christ in some level, you know, sort of,
Yes.
uh,
It just depends
Protestant Baptist,
where you put
yeah,
it,
or
right? They put it in
Anabaptist or
different
something, yeah.
spots.
They're gonna
Totally.
emphasize something different, so they might not
Yeah.
have a high church view of some of these things, but it's
Yes.
still
Yeah.
because they're being shaped by Christ in some form, whether it's the
Mhm.
text or the image or the, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
pulled into it. And I'm not saying, oh, it's all relative. You know, I think there's a true way to do it, but
Yeah,
it is
totally.
inviting other congregations and groups to try this. You know, try
Mhm.
communion every week. Try uh, bringing
Yeah.
in you know, confession and absolution. Try these
Yeah.
things uh, to to be brought closer to, and it just there, you know, and uh it's sidetracked, but it's just that it goes back to what you said. Christ teaches us, the gospel teaches us how, and here I mean the gospel is Christ. You know, I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yes.
There are various, I don't mean just like a truncated
Well, the gospel is not what we
gospel.
do, it's what was done, right? Like, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a
That
distinction you gotta make
shape,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the meta narrative, and that's what we're all
Yes. Yes.
participating is the logos.
Yes.
And so I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, that we are going to have to find ways to preserve that embodiment, that
Mhm.
way of being human, and that's all sorts of areas of our life. So then,
Mhm.
how would that translate into? I don't know, Chat GPT.
I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't really know
We don't
because
know the
there's no w
implications. We don't know where this is going, and
yeah.
so I guess
I
it's how do we? And that's what I keep thinking. Like, people are going to start using these tools. They're going to do deep fakes. They're going to do all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
We're going to start, our BS meter is going to go up because we're going to
Oh,
start,
yeah.
you know, somebody sends us an email that's phishing, and it's just
Mhm.
pristine. It's got all the right grammar and everything else because they can
Yeah.
use Chat GPT. We're going to have a BS meter still. So,
I suppose there's something to be said about discernment in the spirit. There's something to be said there for that
yeah.
in terms
So I
of
think sometimes people make too
interpreting
much
it.
of Chat GPT. I think it's,
Mhm.
at least at this stage, as you said, it's a tool. You know, it's pulling
Yeah.
off of sources based off algorithms, and it's
And
in a
human
language
input too. It's not like it's its own
model.
thing.
Yeah. We're the ones building it, and so because we're
Right.
limited, we're gonna have we're going to be, trapped in scenarios, and
But
that will need
yeah,
deconstruction.
yeah,
And and so now it doesn't mean we won't navigate the craziest political stuff, because
yeah.
or other kinds of demoralizing behavior.
Mhm,
You mentioned pornography. I can imagine the crazy stuff someone could do
mhm.
with with your imagination. And so,
Yeah, it's
because
rough. Yeah,
human corruption, because we've inherited sin,
yeah,
it's a problem. But
yes.
well, let's have this conversation again. I'm going to try to get my techie brother online, because I'm going to ask him
Yeah, that'd be great.
some more. We could ask him some more questions about like how it functions and what he sees with it, what he sees maybe with the
Mhm.
future of it.
I'd be interested
And
in his perspective because I feel like mine means nothing. Like, mine
yeah,
doesn't have any
I mean,
weight. You know what I
I've
mean?
I've been dinking around with it for the past week, so I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
if I have expertise in it. But I
Right.
do know that, like you said, I want to preserve my humanity, not just for
Yeah.
myself, but my family, my kids, my community.
Yeah,
And
my kids in particular,
yeah,
they're very much gonna be in the
well, in our
downstream from the
community, like,
tidal wave of this, you know?
yeah, like we want people to flourish, and we got
Yeah.
to find ways to break through
Mhm,
these um, tools of manipulation, propaganda,
mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
other ways technology is being used against humanity in a nefarious way.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Well, thanks for listening to Discerning the Forums. Hey, reach out, comment, share. We love to hear your perspective on these things, and we're here to start the conversation. So check us out on YouTube, on any podcatcher, on Odyssey. We're posting our stuff there too.
Mhm.
I like the idea Odyssey, but we don't, nobody gets any views on that thing, so they got to fix. They need
It's
a
tough.
chat GPT for that. I don't know. I'm
Right.
just
They need to get in the game,
yeah,
step up the game, and get into
yeah,
AI.
yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
about that, but
yeah.
it's got a lot of potential. But anyway, thanks for listening. You discern.
God bless.